Good day, class. Welcome to the discussion for the iOS for this week as working in the iOS environment. So with this chapter, we could learn with the properties, the setup, the configuration, which is tackled on this topic. Okay, so here's the objectives for this lesson. So we're going to explore what are the iOS platform and what are those platforms in terms of the frameworks. So we could learn also here about the SDK or the software development kit based on its components. We could learn also on this chapter about the architecture or the layout of iOS and the role of Cocoa Touch. Okay. Also the different outline or the outline the app life cycle. So how could we make it a cycle environment? And we could learn a simple app as like an example of Hello World or Hello Universe as well. Actually, we did that in lab previously. We discussed about those programming such as the C programming. Okay? So we could here also add the labels, text fields, and buttons to a view controller. And also we could use an IB outlet and IB actions. So those are the connections in terms of that particular environment. Okay, so the iOS platform. So when say iOS platform, so technically same as with the Windows, that's a platform. That's operating system. Actually, the platform that you are using. Okay, so in our case, since it's a finals, so the second chapter will discuss about the iOS environment itself. So here in Apple, it's the OS or operating systems for mobile applications in terms of the mobile devices. So what are those mobile devices? Those are the iPhones, iPads, and the iPad. Okay. So also there's a Apple TV. Okay, that could generate the process. It is also means based on communication between the hardware and software. That's actually the communication between the hardware specs, okay, and also the application that use in iOS. This also made up of layers that can be separated based on its functionality, meaning there's a layered based on the architecture design. So those are the things that we need to learn as we go through with the different layer. Okay, in every operating system there's a different layer, such as in Windows there's what we call the kernel OS. Okay, so I do hope you already know that since you have your operating system subject. It also tackled about the different layers in operating systems. Okay, so that we could have any problem with the concept of OS. Okay, then it can be divided into four layers. The lowest layer provide the most basic layers. So the highest is the more complex services. So when you say lower layer, it's technically not as object oriented. It's more on procedural language. Okay, so the higher levels that has features of OOP or object oriented programming, there's the encapsulation method. So you already know in OOP we have a different layers. We have actually part of OOP, the inheritance. Okay, we have the polymorphism, encapsulation. Those are the levels that has a higher level. But we could concentrate with encapsulation model, part of the layer. The iOS architecture is comprised of the following layers. The first is Cocoa Touch. The second one is the media. The third one is core services. And the last one is the core OS. Each layer is supported by a set of frameworks. So what are those frameworks? So just like in Windows, we have a .NET frameworks, right? So, and also in other different operating such as Linux, OS, okay, even Android, there are different process to execute. So, they need also an SDK to process a particular applications. So, here in iOS, okay, we need part of the complex capabilities in terms of applications. So what are those application programming? So we could use text field application. There we can use different controls. So what are those controls? We could use controls in giving an animation effects or effects, animation, or multitasking. So those are the complex capability of Cocoa Touch. So meaning, this the event-driven functionality. So in Cocoa Touch. So meaning the libraries, the process is more complex. So there's a lot of the controls that you could use to make it dynamic complex. Dynamic means you could make it synchronous or synchronize with another platform layer or another applications. So it could be on a web or it could be a mobile. So that's what we call the hybrid. Okay. It also features based on the different abstraction. So abstraction by separating the hardware from program development. So technically, um, it depends and varies also. In iOS, there's a particular updates that you need to upgrade in your hardware so that the other libraries or other SDK would run thoroughly. Okay, so simultaneously, hardware and software is always updated in order for you to run the iOS environment or the iOS application itself. Okay, since iOS is paid once you registered, you have your already an account. So technically, you all you have to do is to update and upgrade your particular specification of your hardware. Simple as that. Okay? Then in Cocoa Touch, it's also built based on MBC. So when you say MBC, that's what we call a model view controller. So you cannot interact with the controller without a model. Model means you need to design a particular interface based on a different methods. Okay? So it could increase the platform independence. When you say platform independence, those are the time that your iOS would run thoroughly without having um, minimal bugs, but there's a lot of libraries to suggest. Okay. Also in Cocoa Touch, it's done by Xcode. So when you say in Xcode, so those are the our IDE that we're going to use or integrated development environment. Actually, I demonstrate that last week in laboratory about the Xcode. Okay, I demonstrate that already the Xcode, basically the introductions. Then the objective key still we can use it, but in our case we could use Swift. Okay, as I told you, we could have simultaneously run in Xcode a different language as long as you're comfortable with that. Okay. Then next, the core services. This layer supports services that utilized by OS, of course, without prior knowledge. Those are the example of the support, the NS strings, objects, NS numbers, etc. So just like with Windows, there's a different services that they need to provide. Okay, especially in In Windows, they have an IIS, or or that's what they call the IIS, Internet Information Services. That's what they called it in Windows. But in iOS, the support one is the strings, objects, and numbers. So those are the services that we could use, and so on. And some frameworks that support this layer are Core Location, Foundation, Event Kit, Core Media, and so on. So later on, we have a figures for that so that you could grasp what are those layers are. Okay, so by definition, um, they support with the low-level features such as the security, external accessories, Bluetooth technology, memory allocation, threading, and so on. Okay, so meaning, uh, iOS powerful one in terms of mobile applications, in terms of their technologies, very powerful. Okay, yes, that's technically speaking. Okay, but expensive. Okay, this layer is closer to the hardware and handles most of the functionality based on the hardware directly. So you already know those things. We have the frameworks based on the layers, and also as part of the methods and applications, the developer did interact that. You could open the site, the developer site or iOS developer, so you could see the different methods that they use in different framework. Okay, such as importing the foundation and UI kit. Okay, that's the frameworks that we could use. In Windows, that's what we call .NET framework in Windows. But in our case, in iOS, that's what we call foundation or the UI kit that we're going to import. So UI kit is the package and different libraries that consist of a different frames. Okay, so just to continue, by definition, those are the tools that use in a different process, which is NS strings, NS dictionary, and so on. That's what we call foundation. All of these objects inherit from NS objects. So those are the object class. Then we have a UI kit. So as I told you last week, we import the UI kit in Swift. Okay, we use a playground as part of our code editing of those particular codes. Then that's the tools that the framework could provide. Otherwise, if you don't have a framework, automatically it will um, have a normal viewing of the program. So meaning you could run that in any browser as long as there is capable of running the particular interface. Okay, so in our case, UI kit is imported through the Xcode environment. So we could use a playground. But if you don't have those resources, you could use, as I told you last week, you could use a browser. So you could use a iswift.org or tutorials that's tutorials swift tutorials.com in Swift. So meaning there is live codings and simulation to run your frameworks. But don't expect there's an import of UI kit. It's for on basic codings. Okay? The next. So this the iOS architecture. So this the figure 8.1, the architecture and frameworks. So this the framework, and this one is the architectures. So as you can see here, the iOS has a complex features that increase every now and then, simply because they are in terms of dating, they are very updated in terms of different features. Okay, in order for you to run those applications, especially if you download those application that requires another package or another libraries. Okay, so the first one is, of course, let's start with the UI kit. Okay, so the UI kit, game, and map kit, those are what we call the package. Okay, the package that compose of Cocoa Touch in iOS architecture layer. So meaning you could use um, push notification or alert based on the map kit. You could use gesture recognition based on the package of the game console, multitasking based on the UI kit as part of the layers. Okay, and also you could use also here the um, recognitions in terms of text, not only in image processing, text processing. So it's be done in Cocoa Touch, not only in push notification, even the alerts. Okay, so different alerts in iOS architecture, Cocoa Touch could use that. Okay, then next we have core graphics, core image, core text, core video, image, IOGQ, quad zone. So those are the frameworks. And then the layers will be the media. Media that compose of audio, video, graphics, animation, or what we call the multimedia. Okay, these are actually the resources that you need to import in order for you to load the particular files. So it could be the file extension, it could be the, if it's image, it could be JPEG, PNG, GIF. So that's part of the images. Audio, video, still in iOS, they are acceptable. Okay, so if you have your video in iOS, then if it's not played with other OS, all you have to do is to convert that. But there's a player that could convert a certain video in other platform. Okay. Then next we have the current location, foundation, event kit, core media. So those are the services. That's what we call the core services. So basically those are the address book, event handling, and so on. So meaning these are the part of the services that could handle a particular provide that could provide an event driven based on the particular command that could execute in this layer. Okay, so the last part is the security, external accessory system for Bluetooth and accelerate rather. So those are the other frameworks in iOS. So the core OS as part of architectural layers, there's a security, Bluetooth technology support, external accessories, and etc. Actually, there's also in Android, they also have those things. Okay, but of course, in terms of the layered, I could say that it's more secured in iOS level. Okay, but in Android, it's also secured, but you need to import another package. Okay, in order for you to process the particular programs. Okay, we have the SDK. So these are the requirements. We need to have a Mac OS version 10 above. Okay, so right now we have the Big Sur for the Mac OS as part of the updates. An Xcode is an IDE that we could use, or integrated development environment we could use on Playgrounds. And you could join in iOS development team as part of as a developer, as part of your project in doing that project. Okay, so these are the comprises of SDK. Okay, next we have the LLMV, the compiler. So meaning these are the complex tools that could use an intelligence. So meaning there's intelligent senses to make the features autocomplete. When you say autocomplete, once you come up with the particular codes, then it will suggest, then it will give particular codes to insert or to input. So that's what we call autocomplete features. So if your program is incomplete, there's a way in LLMBV compiler to execute the given error and suggest appropriate solutions. But still, it's up to you to insert that or not, or you can do another codings. That's what LMBV compiler works. Okay, and also we have interface builder. Those are development tool that can be used in user interactions. So meaning those are a part of the MVC, model view controller. Those are part of view controller because the model is also already given the model, then you need VC or view controller in order to come up with interface builder. Okay, that's how the software development kit. Then this is the example of interface builder. Okay, so this actually your environment of your iOS. Okay, then we have the instrument analysis based on the tools that could perform in test applications, simulator that you could use to run a particular functionality of your program. So such as accelerometer. So when you say accelerometer, those are the part of movements, locations, and simulation process. Okay, then so this the SDK kit. So this the simulator. Okay. So in Android Studio, that's what we call emulator. In iOS, that's what we call simulator. Okay, but still, it could emulate. Okay, so that's how the term different. Okay, so these are the links that the Apple could provide. You could find that in developer.apple.com support iOS. So app lifecycle. So we have application based on window objects, based on life cycle of the apps and the framework. So as I said, we have view controller, part of the displays in order for you to generate the representation of Xcode. Then we have view enable for you to control a different controls such as label, text field, buttons, and list. Okay? Then this is example of view controller and view. So meaning there's a layout, but of course it's not yet running or it's not yet run once the events could process or to execute. So just simply as a layout, meaning the controller part, a layout. Then we have a connections. We have the IB outlets and IB actions. So when you say connection, these are the code that could connect with logical aspect in terms of preparation on different tasks. So those are the two. There's are two types. We have, as I told you, IB outlet and IB actions. So when you say IB outlet, those are connections between the controls, for instance, variable. While IB action, those are the controls based on the instance method. Take note, based on an instance method, meaning there's a method to control the outlet. Okay, so you already have your variable, but the point is you cannot trigger that variable if you don't have any instance values that could have an event-driven process. When you say event driven, once the button click, what comes next? So that's what we call IB actions. Clear? So example, you have an IB outlet. You already have your buttons. You already have the commands. Okay, whatever that needs to generate a specific result. That's an IB outlet. Okay, while the IB action needs um, to process that based on the events. So meaning you need to execute that once you click a particular button. You need to execute. Example, I need to save. So how can you save if there's no actions required? So that's what we call an IB actions. Okay, so technically the interface or objects has a program logic, vice versa. So this is the connection between the interface elements and program logic. Because if your program in the particular control in IB outlet is invalid or irrelevant, or it's not functioning at all, so technically the programming logic process, they need to debug, or you need to debug in order for you to execute the outlet. So meaning IB outlet through program logic, then execute the action through IB outlet. So vice versa. Okay? So in any objects or buttons or command, there's always equivalent actions. So those are the results. Okay? Otherwise, that's not an event driven. Okay? So that's a different thing. Okay, so there's a hands-on lab here. Since you don't have an Mac and iOS, so I will demonstrate that as we go through in lab. Okay, so I will demonstrate those things in lab, but as I told you, I prepared a screenshot in every aspect if you don't have your Mac OS or iPad or iOS. So I prepared the different layout here in order for you to execute the hands-on lab. But of course, I will demonstrate that by next meeting in order for you to have a continuation of our applications. So this is okay. To sum up, the iOS architecture can be divided to 4 layers. That is the Cocoa Touch, Media, Core Services, and Core OS. iOS based on capabilities, gestures, facial recognition, animation, and media layer consists of different frameworks. There's a services layer that support in every event, motion, foundation, and the services. As continued for the summary, the core OS layer support with the different levels. We have low level and high level. So depending on the allocated memory or associated application that the UI presented in a different window kit. Also, the main invokes of the UI application main which load the different locations. So those are the UI kit foundation and graphics frameworks. And also, the instrument development tools that can provide, we could also make a performance based on a different test. Interface builder, view controller, using IDE, which is the Xcode, okay, and so on. And we have a label control, button control, text field control. So those are controls that could trigger your um, actions because you already your UI buttons. Okay, so so much for that. Just actually the overview of the environment of iOS. By next meeting, we could come up with the continuation of lab demo last week. So I continue the demo, then right after that, the simulations. Okay, once again, thank you for listening. Have a nice day.